Over 262,000 light-years from the galactic center, beyond the reaches of the deadly pulse from the Halo Array, lay Installation 00, also known as the Lesser Ark, Great Foundry, or simply the Ark. It was built by the Forerunners roughly 100,000 years before humanity returned to the stars. Commissioned under the orders of Master Builder Faber, it was intended to be the construction site and control center for the second generation of Halo rings. At the insistence of the librarian, its design was expanded to become part of the conservation measure, and vast terraformed landscapes were added to act as a haven for galactic life. At over 127,000 kilometers in diameter, the Ark was one of the largest objects ever constructed. It was shaped like a vast bowl, with 8 arms called spires radiating out from a central disk, taking the appearance of a colossal flower. To provide a home for the hundreds of catalogued life forms that were part of the conservation measure, the surface was completely terraformed into a number of diverse landscapes. These landscapes were printed on top of the superstructure of the Ark by control towers utilizing raw materials from deep below the surface and blanketed with a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. As the structure was far outside the galaxy and not housed within a solar system, an artificial sun was created. This was much like those found within the Forerunner shield worlds, and provided the terraformed landscapes with light and heat. Despite conservation being the secondary purpose of the installation, the vast majority of the immense structure was dedicated to the preservation of complex life forms from across the galaxy. The terraformed surface area was far larger than any terrestrial planet, and was divided into a number of artificial biomes called refugia. The central disk had 12 distinct refugia, with another 20 spread across the spires. Each of these was separated from the others by vast quarantine walls and containment barriers to prevent cross-contamination. As the refugia were maintained by the same life support systems present on the Halo rings, a wide variety of landscapes and climates were represented, despite the shared atmosphere and sun. This allowed for the preservation of the many galactic species that the conservation measure required, housing life in deserts and forests, and even large bodies of water. The weather, temperature, and gravity of each refugia was monitored and controlled autonomously by the Ark, which was even capable of carefully preserving food chains to maintain the balance of each habitat. The installation's primary purpose was the creation of second-generation Halo rings, and the activation point for the Halo Array as a whole. The dual requirements of secrecy and safe distance led to the installation's extragalactic placement. In fact, only the highest-ranking Forerunners were aware of the existence of the Lesser Ark, and of them, only Master Builder Faber knew its exact location. The second-generation, 10,000-kilometer diameter Halo rings were built at the Great Foundry that lay at the very center of the Ark. This titanic facility suspended a mineral-rich planetoid or moon, taken from the Milky Way via slipspace, within a powerful gravitational field at its core. Clouds of ship-sized retriever Sentinels strip-mined resources from the planetoid, and assembler Sentinels used these gathered materials to build or repair halos. This process meant that an entire ring could be constructed in a matter of months, though there was so much waste heat that cooling stations were required to maintain the habitability of the refugia. The same slipspace portal generator that was used to gather planetoids was also used to send the rings to their final firing positions across the galaxy. This portal could also be opened from the other side by Forerunner portal structures using a specific keyship, such as the Anodyne Spirit, or a Forerunner slipspace flake. Retriever and assembler Sentinels were also used for repairing and reconfiguring the Ark itself, and were also used in a defensive role. While each individual Sentinel was not that powerful, as they were all networked together, vast swarms could easily coordinate a defense against any threat to the Ark. Other Sentinels were used for smaller scale defenses, such as the small Aggressor Sentinels, shielded Controller Sentinels, larger Protector Sentinels, and even Armigers. All of these could be directly controlled by the installation's monitor, 000 Tragic Solitude, who could also take control of wildlife or people through brainwave manipulation. For protection against attacks from space during the earliest stages of the Ark's construction, it included at least one particle cannon, which fired a continuous beam of super-dense ionized particles over incredible distances. There were also a number of docking bays for Despair-class fighters. As the most vital part of the installation, the Foundry had additional protection in the form of a vast energy barrier, maintained by a series of barrier towers completely surrounding the center of the Ark. All of these defenses were tied into a threat assessment system, powered by valuable terminus structures. These recorded and indexed all events that took place on and around the Ark, compared them against archive conflicts, and calculated probable outcomes. The power for all systems and facilities came from deep within the Ark itself. A complex network of power grids was buried beneath the terraformed surface, distributing power throughout the various facilities across the installation. These networks could also be accessed directly on the surface through power nodes, designed to provide energy during emergencies or for repairs. The network could also be tapped directly, though power extraction in this manner would soon elicit a response from aggressor Sentinels. As on the halos it created, the installation featured multiple cartographer facilities. These centralized all data on the current state of the entire Ark, charting all geographic features, diagnostic information, and any activated security measures, all updated in real time. Cartographers were located in remote wastelands to protect this data, surrounded by defensive barriers and aggressive Sentinels. The most important facility on the Ark was the Citadel, located near the edge of the foundry within its defensive barriers. It was from here that the status of the 7 halo rings spread throughout the galaxy was monitored, as well as acting as the final activation point for the array. It did this through the Clarion Network, a group of facilities near the center of the installation that allowed superluminal communications between the Ark and the halos. After the array was fired, the installation was largely forgotten by the reintroduced peoples of the galaxy. It took 100,000 years for the portal at Voi on Earth to be opened, causing war and the Flood to spill over onto the Ark. During this battle, an unfinished replacement for the destroyed Installation 04 was fired close to the surface of the Ark to rid it of the Flood. However, this severely damaged the Ark and closed the portal, but left only scattered Flood survivors squatting within the quarantined ruins of High Charity. Conflict returned 2 years later when Tragic Solitude, seeking revenge for the damage, baited the portal open by triggering a countdown to the array's firing. His plans were thwarted, and permanent research facilities and other bases were established across the Ark by the UNSC. After this, Sentinels continued repairs for years, reshaping continents and rearranging ancient structures. The portal closed once again during the created conflict, stranding UNSC personnel who then had to contend with the appearance of Atriox and the Banished. The unexpected arrival of the UNSC Spirit of Fire led to more battles, and the discovery of a completed replacement halo which was then sent to the galaxy. Banished forces managed to use the portal under the mountain on Reach to retrieve Atriox, which also allowed the Keepers of the One Freedom, a religious group following the Creed of the Covenant, to reach the Ark. They attempted to fire the halos, but were stopped by the Spirit of Fire disabling Epsilon Clarion. As this was the only functional component of the Clarion network, the Ark was effectively cut off from the array. Installation 00, despite being known by the Forerunners as the Lesser Ark, was nonetheless a pivotal location and the epicenter of multiple galactic-scale events. Ever since the opening of the portal at Voi, it has remained a site of curiosity, research, and continued conflict.